Sultan Suleiman executed his son Mustafa for Hürrem. It must have been the hardest decision for a father, but the words Hürrem whispered to him had driven the Sultan mad. Either me or him. The two of us cannot coexist. On that gloomy October day in 1553, in a tent pitched on the road to Amasya, the most painful scene in Ottoman Empire history was about to unfold. Sultan Suleiman, 59 years old, with graying hair and deep lines on his face, was a father. Across from him stood his 38-year-old son, Prince Mustafa, the empire's most talented heir, beloved by the people, the apple of the army's eye. But this father-son meeting was far from loving. Inside the tent, among silk curtains, there was the scent of death. "My father," said Mustafa, his voice containing neither fear nor anger, only deep sorrow. "Is this our final meeting?" Suleiman sat silently. Tears gathered in his eyes, but he didn't shed them. A sultan could not cry, especially not before killing his son. But this story hadn't begun that day. The roots of this love and betrayal stretched back 30 years. When 26-year-old Suleiman ascended the throne in 1520, the world would know him as the Magnificent. But at that time, the young sultan's heart was empty. His father Selim the Grim's death had deeply affected him. Selim was a harsh sultan, but loved Suleiman greatly. After his father's death, Suleiman became unable to trust anyone. It was during this period, in 1521, that a strange concubine came to his palace, Aleksandra Lisowska. From the town of Rohatyn in Ukraine, 15 years old, red-haired, green-eyed slave girl. Tatars had captured her, selling her in Istanbul's slave market. She was purchased for the palace and brought to the imperial harem. But Aleksandra was no ordinary concubine. On the first night when Suleiman summoned her, he didn't find what he expected. Aleksandra was neither afraid nor pleading. Instead, she looked into his eyes and asked, "My sultan, why are you so lonely?" This question surprised Suleiman. No one had ever asked him such a thing. He was the most powerful man in the world. How could he be lonely? "What do you understand about loneliness?" Suleiman replied. Aleksandra smiled. That smile melted Suleiman's heart. "I am 15 years old, but my family is dead. I'm torn from my homeland. No one speaks my language. But you? You're surrounded by thousands of people, but can't trust any of them. Your loneliness is deeper than mine." That night, Suleiman only talked with Aleksandra. He told her about his father, his fears, the weight he felt when ascending the throne. Aleksandra listened, never judged. When morning came, Suleiman gave her the name Hürrem. It meant joyful, because she had made Suleiman laugh for the first time in a long while. Months passed. Hürrem was different from other concubines in the harem. There were many beautiful women, but she was intelligent, educated, and understood Suleiman. She learned Ottoman Turkish, read Persian poetry, had opinions on politics and military matters. Suleiman was smitten with her, but the price of this love would be heavy. In 1521, Hürrem gave birth to their first son, Mehmet. Suleiman was overjoyed, but whispers began in the palace, because Suleiman had another son from Gulbahar Hatun, Mustafa, and Mustafa was Suleiman's firstborn. According to Ottoman tradition, the throne passed to the eldest prince. Mustafa was older than Hürrem's sons, so he would ascend the throne, but Hürrem would not accept this. In 1526, her second son, Selim, was born. In 1531, Abdullah, who died early. In 1533, Bayezid. In 1535, Cihangir. And in 1536, her daughter, Mihrimah. Hürrem had given Suleiman 5 children, but her real weapon wasn't her children. It was her place in Suleiman's heart. In 1534, an unprecedented event in Ottoman history occurred. Sultan Suleiman married Hürrem. He performed a wedding ceremony. This was madness. No Ottoman sultan had ever married a concubine. Concubines became favorites, became haseki, but they didn't become sultanas. But Suleiman broke 300 years of tradition. The palace was in uproar. Janissaries rebelled. Viziers protested. But Suleiman was determined. Hürrem Sultan is my wife. You will show her respect. Now Hürrem was not just a concubine, but the Sultan's wife, mother of his children, and the most powerful woman in the empire. But Mustafa was still there, and he was growing up. Mustafa was more charismatic than his father. Soldiers loved him. The people supported him. Moreover, under Gulbahar Hatun's influence, he defended old Ottoman traditions. For Hürrem, Mustafa was the greatest threat, because if Mustafa became sultan, her sons would be killed. This was Ottoman law, fratricide. That's when Hürrem said those words to Suleiman, "Either me or him, the two of us cannot coexist." In 1553, the situation intensified. Mustafa was serving as provincial governor in Amasya. His soldiers were very loyal to him. Some viziers also supported him. Hürrem constantly whispered this to Suleiman, "My sultan, Mustafa will dethrone you. His soldiers are with him. Viziers support him. If we wait, it will be too late." Suleiman initially didn't want to believe it. Mustafa was his son. How could he betray him? But Hürrem masterfully continued her game. She had fake letters written. She spread rumors that Mustafa was preparing rebellion. She poisoned Suleiman's ears. Finally, Suleiman was convinced. Perhaps he wanted to be convinced, because Mustafa really was the closest person to the throne, and Suleiman had begun to see him as a threat. In autumn 1553, Suleiman set out on a campaign against Iran. He also summoned Mustafa to join him. "Let our armies unite, father," said Mustafa. He still trusted his father. October 18, 1553, in a tent pitched on the Ereğli plains, history was written. Suleiman summoned Mustafa to his tent. Mustafa came. Deaf-mute executioners waited at the door. When Suleiman entered, the executioners strangled Mustafa. Suleiman had killed his own son. When Mustafa's body was brought out of the tent, the army rebelled. Soldiers were crying. "They killed our just prince," they shouted. Suleiman sat alone in his tent. In his hand was a letter from Hürrem. "My sultan, you made the right decision. Now the empire is safe." But Suleiman didn't feel safe. For the first time, he was fighting with his own conscience. That night in his dream, he saw his father. Selim the Grim said to him, "My son, a sultan does everything to protect his throne, but you also killed a father." When Suleiman woke up, his face was wet with tears. After Mustafa's death, the empire changed. Hürrem's son Mehmet became heir, but he had already died in 1543. The turn came to Selim, but he was drunk and weak. Bayezid was rebellious. Cihangir was disabled and sick. Suleiman had killed his best son with his own hands. In 1558, Hürrem died. Suleiman cried at her funeral. But it was too late now. Mustafa's ghost always haunted him. When Suleiman died in 1566, Selim ascended the throne. But Selim wasn't as strong as his father. The Ottoman Empire's golden age had ended. Hürrem's game was successful. She had brought her sons to the throne, but the price was too heavy. The empire's best prince was dead. Suleiman lived with deep remorse. According to historical sources, Suleiman was never the same after killing Mustafa. He got angry faster, laughed less, stayed alone more. Palace historian Pachevi Ibrahim Effendi wrote, "After the Sultan killed Mustafa, it was as if he had also killed a part of his own soul." Hürrem Sultan was one of history's most powerful women, from Ukrainian slave girl to mistress of the Ottoman Empire. But the price of power was very heavy. The love between Suleiman and Hürrem was real. But when this love mixed with political calculations, it turned into tragedy. Hürrem truly loved Suleiman, but at the same time wanted to protect her own children. Mustafa's death became the beginning of the Ottoman Empire's decline. After the strongest prince died, weak princes ascended the throne. Perhaps if Mustafa had lived, the Ottoman Empire would have lasted longer. Perhaps it would have completely conquered Europe. Perhaps history would have been written completely differently. But Hürrem's whisper changed the fate of an empire. Either me or him, the two of us cannot coexist. These words penetrated Suleiman's heart, and he put his love above his son. Thus ended one of history's greatest love stories, the union of two hearts, but also a father killing his son. The tombs of Suleiman and Hürrem are today in the Suleymaniye Mosque side by side. They were not separated even after death. But Mustafa's tomb is in Bursa, far away. This story shows us that love can conquer everything, but can also destroy everything. Hürrem's love strengthened Suleiman, but also led him to destruction. Even 500 years later, Sultan Suleiman's forbidden love is still told. Because this isn't just a love story. It's a drama where power, strategy, sacrifice, and remorse intertwine. The tale of Suleiman and Hürrem reveals the dangerous intersection of personal desire and imperial duty. In the gilded halls of Topkapi Palace, where silk curtains whispered secrets and every smile could hide a dagger, love became the most dangerous weapon of all. Hürrem's transformation from Aleksandra, the captured Ukrainian girl, to the most influential woman in the Ottoman Empire, remains one of history's most remarkable ascensions. She navigated the treacherous waters of harem politics with intelligence that matched her beauty, proving that true power came not from submission, but from understanding the human heart. The tragedy of Mustafa's execution echoes through Ottoman history as the moment when personal passion trumped political wisdom. The empire's most capable heir died not on a battlefield fighting enemies, but in his father's tent, victim of palace intrigue and a stepmother's ambition. Suleiman's choice between his beloved wife and his talented son reflects the eternal conflict between the heart and duty, between the man and the ruler. In choosing love, he may have doomed his empire to centuries of decline under weaker successors. Today, their story serves as a timeless reminder that even the mightiest empires can be shaped by the whispered words between lovers, and that the greatest conquests sometimes lead to the most devastating defeats.